Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our two-day program, PMP for Operation Excellence. I'll be your facilitator for this training. Over the next 2 days, we're going to dive deep into the principles of professional project management and, most importantly, how to apply them directly to the excellent work you do here in the maintenance department. Let's get started. Here's a look at our roadmap for the next 2 days. Day 1 is all about building a strong foundation. We'll start with the why, understanding the strategic importance of project management, and move into the critical first steps of defining and planning a project. Day 2 will be focused on the how. We'll cover execution, tracking, and introduce some modern tools like Kanban. We'll close with a hands-on simulation and discuss how to effectively implement these skills back in your roles. Our goals for this training are very specific and are directly aligned with the objectives outlined in your training terms of reference. By the end of Day 2, you won't just know the theory. You'll be equipped to do these things. You'll be able to justify a project with a business case, plan it with a WBS, manage it professionally, and close it out in a way that captures value for the organization. These are the core competencies of a project management professional. Let's talk about why this training is so relevant to your team. Your department is constantly managing complex initiatives, overhauls, improvement projects, new investments. The requirement identified that treating these as formal projects requires a new competency. That's the core of why we're here, to move from seeing these as just work that needs to be done, to managing them as professional projects with a structured approach, which will ultimately lead to more successful outcomes. First, let's define what a project is. It's crucial to distinguish it from operations. Operations are the engine of the company, the continuous, repetitive work. A project, on the other hand, is temporary and unique. It's designed to create something new, or to implement a change. A major overhaul, for example, has a clear start and finish and a specific goal. That's what makes it a project. At the heart of every project are what we call the triple constraint: scope, time, and cost. Think of it as a three-legged stool. If you change one leg, you have to adjust the others to keep it balanced. If a stakeholder wants to add more to the scope, it will likely impact the time or the cost, or both. As a project manager, your job is to manage this balance and communicate the trade-offs to your stakeholders. Not all projects are the same. The projects you manage generally fall into a few key categories. An investment project, like installing new equipment, is judged primarily on its return on investment. An operational project, like improving a maintenance process, is judged on efficiency gains. Understanding your project's type from the start helps you focus on the right success metrics and anticipate the key challenges you'll face. The role of a project manager today is far more than just creating a schedule. The Project Management Institute, or PMI, describes the PM as a, quote, change agent. You are the leader responsible for not just executing tasks, but for inspiring the team, communicating with stakeholders, managing risks, and ultimately, ensuring the project delivers its intended value. It's a leadership role that sits at the intersection of strategy and execution. So how does a project come to be? It doesn't just appear. It starts with an idea. But before we jump into planning, we need to ask two critical questions. First, with a feasibility study, we ask, can we realistically do this? If the answer is yes, we then move to the business case, where we ask the more important question, why should we do this? Only after both questions are answered satisfactorily does a project get the green light. The feasibility study is our first major risk mitigation tool. It stops us from wasting time and money on projects that are destined to fail. The TELOS framework gives us a structured way to think about this. We look at it from 5 angles. Is it technically possible? Is it economically sound? Is it legal? Can our operations handle it? And can we do it in a reasonable time frame? This analysis gives leadership the information they need to make a smart go or no-go decision. Once we know a project is feasible, the business case explains why it's valuable. This document is all about justification. It links the project directly to the company's strategic goals and provides the financial rationale, like return on investment. It's the document you take to senior management to get funding and approval. A project can be perfectly executed, but if it doesn't have a strong business case, it might still be a failure because it didn't deliver real value. All right, it's time for our first workshop. We're going to put these concepts into practice. In your groups, I want you to consider a scenario, a proposal to upgrade a key piece of equipment. First, using the TELOS framework, come up with a few questions you would need to answer to determine if this project is feasible. Second, start outlining a business case. What are the key benefits? Cost savings, efficiency, safety that would justify this investment. We'll take about 30 minutes and then share our ideas. Now let's take a look what we have learned in part 1 in just a moment. First, we understand about what the objective of this training and what is all about the project management. Then, we challenge why we need the project management professional, the benefit to your organization and you company. Then, we look at the type of project selection. Just a few minutes ago we just finished TLOS, the project feasibility criteria. Now, it's time to move on.
Now that we understand how a project gets approved, let's look at the entire life cycle. The PMP framework organizes this into 5 core process groups. We start with initiation, where the project is born. Then we move into extensive planning. Execution is where the work gets done, but it happens in parallel with monitoring and control, where we track our progress against the plan. Finally, and this is a step many people miss, we have a formal closing phase. We'll walk through each of these in detail. Let's focus on the initiation phase. We've already discussed the key input for this phase, an approved business case. The single most important output of this phase is the project charter. This is the document that officially brings the project to life. I like to call the project charter the project's birth certificate. It's the document, signed by the project sponsor, that formally authorizes the project. Crucially, it gives you, the project manager, the authority to use company resources, people, money, equipment, to get the work done. It's a high-level document, not a detailed plan, but it sets the stage for everything that follows. While a charter can be a formal document, its real power is in communication. That's why I'm a big advocate for the visual project charter. Instead of a multi-page text document, you create a single, visual page that summarizes the entire project. This becomes your elevator pitch. Anyone, from a team member to a senior executive, can look at it and immediately understand what the project is about. It's incredibly powerful for creating alignment and managing expectations from day one. So what goes on this one-page charter? These are the essential elements. You need clear goals, a well-defined scope, including what you are not doing, a high-level timeline with major milestones, a list of the key people involved, a rough budget, and a summary of the biggest risks. We'll practice creating one of these in our next workshop. Okay, let's build on our last workshop. Using the same improvement project scenario, your task is to create a one-page visual project charter. I've provided a template to guide you. Work with your group to fill in each of the key sections we just discussed. This document will become the foundation for the rest of the exercises we do today and tomorrow. Let's take about 45 minutes for this. With our project officially chartered, we now move into the planning phase. This is where we take the high-level information from the charter and build out the detailed roadmap. This is the most intensive part of project management, and good planning is the single biggest predictor of project success. The output of this phase is the comprehensive project management plan. The absolute foundation of a good plan is a clear scope, and the tool we use for that is the Work Breakdown Structure, or WBS. The WBS takes the total scope of the project and breaks it down into smaller, more manageable pieces. The key is to think in terms of deliverables, the what's, not the how's. For a major overhaul, you wouldn't just have a task called Do Overhaul. You'd break it down into deliverables like turbine inspection and generator maintenance, and then break those down even further. This ensures nothing is missed. Let's practice this. For your improvement project, I want you to start building a WBS. First, identify the major deliverables. What are the main things you need to produce or complete? That's your level 2. Then, take one of those deliverables and break it down into smaller components, your level 3 work packages. Remember to focus on the nouns, the things you are creating, not the verbs or actions. We'll take 30 minutes for this. The end of Section 1. Let's continue. Section 2.